One of the cool things about computer and video games is that all the systems are hidden under the hood, unlike a board game where they're all written out in a rule sheet. And so players have to play the game, observe, make hypotheses, and then test those during the gameplay to see if they are accurate or not. Of course, sometimes those hypotheses are wrong, and sometimes it's hard to definitively prove or disprove them. So today's devlog, we're going to look at some of the myths that have arisen among some players about WolfQuest gameplay, and look at some other mysteries about the game and development. First, elk who hold their heads up, kind of tilted back, are weaker than elk who don't do that. We actually touched on this 4 years ago in a devlog after asking Dan Staler, one of our advisors and the head of the Yellowstone Wolf Project, about it. And he said there's no real data on this, but it's thought that tilting their head backs gives them, because their eyes are on the side of their head, gives the elk a little better field of view behind them of the predators chasing them, so they can evade or kick any who are getting too close. Okay, another one, do fleas cause sickness in the pups? No. The sickness is a completely separate subsystem. We thought about tying it into other things, but just overcomplicates it. So fleas do not cause sickness. Weather does not cause sickness. Keeping pups in the den does not cause sickness. Nor does keeping a pup in the den make them heal faster. All those, not true. Do meat chunks have different food values? Actually, this is true. The size of the meat chunk generally indicates how much food value it has. And now in the saga, season is also a factor. In late summer, when the prey are strong and healthy, there's more food on a given meat chunk than in other seasons, especially in the winter, when they are not strong and healthy. What specifically affects diversity when you meet a wolf in courtship? Does personality factor in? Does eye color factor in? Diversity is really quite simple. The initial diversity rating is based on the relatedness of that wolf to you. If it's a near relation, like a sibling or something, you can't even court them, so you won't even see the relationship. But if you get into courtship with another wolf, there are 3 levels of relatedness: close, typical, and far. And the less related the wolf is to you, the higher the star rating. Then coat color comes into play compared to your coat. If your wolf is gray and the other wolf is black, or vice versa, that's good. That will boost diversity. If you're both gray or both black, that's not so good, although both being gray is a little better than both being black. And for this, we treat both kinds of black, big K, small k, and big K, as the same. How are pups' coats selected? Is there any kind of locked-in match between parents' coats and pups' coats? No, it's more complicated than that, and it does use genetics as well. We use the K locus, the black and the gray coat genetic system, and then a simplified genome model using multiple alleles or kind of genetic variables for coat lightness, for the gray tint, for the brown tint, to select the coat. So it's a little complicated to explain, but it's kind of what you would think. It's based on the coat color of the parents, but in a somewhat nuanced way. Okay, will we ever be able to raid rival pack dens? We get this question via the feedback form about every day or two. And we've given a lot of thought over the years. And several years ago, we gave it some thought and decided not to do it for a number of reasons. One of which was that was before the saga, and you were always a new pack with just little pups. And the last thing you had time to do was go try to find and risk your lives to kill other packs' pups. Now, of course, in the saga, you've got quite a big pack. You could leave babysitters back at the den and go on a raiding excursion, all too readily. But the other reasons still do hold sway for us. And one of those is that human players are different than wolves. And human players are playing a game, and they very well might want to go seek revenge on a pack that killed their pups, or even just go on a killing spree of wolf pups around the map. And we try very hard to design the game to help players think like a wolf. And revenge and killing sprees are not a wolfy way to think. Of course, players often do things that are really not what wolves would really do, and that's fine. But in this particular case, it really comes down to that, just vibes and the kind of game we want to make. But it also gets quite complicated quite rapidly if we did decide to do this, because there are just rolling implications and requirements of this that we need just a lot more dens around the map, especially around the borders of the map, which are quite often not suitable den locations for wolves, not on a south-facing slope, not below a certain elevation, etc. But for this to work, no matter where a rival pack decides to set up shop, we would need to put a den there, regardless whether it was suitable or not. Same goes for rendezvous sites. And then there's all the complications it would throw into the persistent pack system. We have this very dynamic persistent pack system, which works quite well, I think, but it is quite complicated, and it's taken a long time to refine it and balance it, and this would throw multiple wrenches into the works for something we don't actually want to have players doing in the game. So all those are game design decisions, and they all add up to a final decision that we're not going to add that to the game. Will multiplayer ever have a pack versus pack mode? This is something that we had way back in 2017 when we began planning Tower Fall. We fully intended to have in the game. But as we worked on the game and multiplayer especially, it evolved in ways that make player versus player mode much harder to implement properly. That would be a competitive mode, and it would need to be robust and secure in ways that competitive games are to prevent cheating. But complicating this is that we have a lot of special functionality which has a legitimate use in the game, like wolves can teleport when it's time to sleep or things like that, and these could easily be tapped into and abused by malicious players. So we finally concluded that the way that our primary goal here of making a game that simulates the life of a single pack has really made the game incompatible with a competitive PvP mode. And if we ever tried that, it would have to be designed and built from scratch to be really purely about that. And I don't know how we'd handle like sleeping 16 hours a day when two packs are going to want to sleep at different times. Just a lot of things just aren't compatible with that. So sad, because it's a neat idea and it would be cool, but it just isn't the way the game has evolved. Are there any plans to make maps that would connect to Lost River so you could travel between those maps? Yeah, I understand the desire for this, being able to move amongst a couple maps in the Lost River area. You know, we had a ton of fun making Lost River, and we put all our ideas into it and don't have anything brewing for another map, and don't really have any plans for that. It is also kind of a unique place, and I don't know, never say never, right? But we don't have any plans. Are there any more other maps planned after Tower Fall? Will you ever make maps based on real locations outside Yellowstone? Back in 2017, we'd actually started a little work on a Pelican Valley map to be the episode after the Tower Fall map in the winter time. But it's a beautiful place, right? But it's just a very broad, very flat valley with some hills on either side. It's just not that interesting. It's not that scenic. So I don't think so. Outside Yellowstone, the Boundary Waters, northern Minnesota, is obviously an important place for wolves, and it's where the Voyager's Wolf Project is focused, but it's just a lot of woods and water, and yeah, I don't know if that would be a real fun map to have. But there are obviously many other places where wolves live inside Yellowstone and outside Yellowstone, and we certainly don't expect Tower Fall to be the last DLC map that we make. After you're finished with WolfQuest, are you going to make another Animal Quest game? You know, we've given this a lot of thought, and the next obvious game to make would be Lion Quest. Big, charismatic megafauna, apex predator, interesting prey species. And actually, back in 2016, before starting on WolfQuest Anniversary Edition, we wanted to try another animal. We spent some months working on Lion Quest, and here's some images and videos from that work. Tommy created the first version of the AI system that we then used in WolfQuest Anniversary Edition. Tim Buzz has started working on some music, and then we really focused on prototyping the lion attack on a wildebeest, which is spectacular. They leap onto the back and they try to bite the neck, and they flip the wildebeest over and they swing around and bite the neck and try to suffocate the prey. It's really something. So we spent a bunch of time working on that. We really wanted to make this dynamic using physics and inverse kinematics, not just be a scripted interaction that is always the same every time you do it. And we made a lot of good progress on that. It was quite hard, but we were making progress. But there were two very different issues that made us set it aside. One, WolfQuest 2.7 was out. We'd done some improvements on that, added the moose and the cougars. But people just wanted more. We wanted more because that was a very incomplete game. And lions just proved to be a really tough topic for a game. The males and females live very different lives. And male lions are just, they're jerks, you know? They come in and kill all the cubs in a pride to get the females willing to mate again, and so the males can have cubs of their own, you know? They're not like wolves. They're not like wolves in so many ways, actually. And we actually have, over the years, looked at many different animals for potential games, and there are none that are really like wolves, that are family animals. They have territory. They have interesting hunting mechanics. They have amazing customization options because of the K-locus and the dog genetic influence 10,000 years ago on wolves. We get this incredible range of wolf coats. Very few animals have anything like that. Lions have very subtle variation in their spot pattern, So we realized that wolves are just incredibly suitable for a game. And we set LionQuest aside and dove back into WolfQuest. And that's what we've been doing for the past 8 years. Yeah. So we are focused on WolfQuest, and we are hoping to exit early access sometime this year. We got to get multiplayer, the saga modes done, and some other stuff. But we're not done yet. We're going to stay on WolfQuest for I don't know how long, but there's more to come. So stay tuned.